Hello, Bournemouth fans, and how are you doing on this Monday? First of all, happy birthday, Steve Fletcher, and welcome to this latest video. We're going to try and predict in a tier list format what the championship might look like next May. Okay, but first of all, we want to get your thoughts and your opinions in the chat. So let us know where you think each team will finish. Also, subscribe to Cherry's Red Army if you haven't already. You know we're trying to get to 500 before the West Brom game. Also, hit the like button because that will really help the channel, and hit the notification bell to be notified when new content is out. I obviously can't do this on my own, so I think I need to get some of the team onto the channel to help us. And want a reminder of some of those teams? Yes, we've got Aaron. How you doing, Aaron?
Very good, thank you. In honour of the big man's 49th birthday, his first ever shirt he wore for us.
Love it. Look how beautiful it is. Dan, how you doing?
Yeah, very good. Love a good tier list. So looking forward to this one. And
John, fresh AFC Bournemouth top there. How you doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Not the one that was out a few weeks ago, but still nice and fresh, straight out of the wash. So good stuff.
Okay, so we're going to attempt to put these 24 teams in this championship table, what it might look like come May. We're going to leave Bournemouth right to the end because there might be a few more discussions that need to go on. We are going to do it in a tier list format. And we're just going to give each team to one of our Cherry's Red Army contributors. But we do want to know in the chat where you think the team will finish as well. And we'll put some of them on the screen. So let's just show you that tier list and let's see how it looks at the moment. And we're just going to go through it as the badges are at the bottom of the screen. And we'll start at Barnsley. And over to you, Aaron. Barnsley finished 5th last season in the championship, made that little run, consecutive wins, got into the playoffs. Was too much of a hurdle in the end, and now their manager's moved on as well.
Yeah, so obviously they were the surprise package last season, narrowly missing relegation the season before. And obviously when we played them early on in the season, we won 4-0 there, and people thought they might struggle again, but they had an incredible second half of the season. They play no prima donnas in their team. They all play for each other, and the manager was integral to that, I feel. So I think that's going to be a big loss to them. He's obviously gone to West Brom, who we'll come on to later. Obviously, their players have to take credit as well, but I think it's going to be a big blow losing the manager. We know how difficult it is to recover. I don't know much about their new manager, if I'm being honest, but then again, we didn't know much about their previous manager before he actually came along, so he could be an excellent appointment. But for me, I think they will certainly not struggle, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I would put them in that 7 to 12 category. They might just miss out on the playoffs. I still think the majority of their squad are still there, and they certainly will not struggle. But yeah, I would put them in that 7 to 12 category. For me, this season, I don't think they'll make the playoffs.
I was just going to say that we'll just quickly point on that with goal scorers. I think DK's moved on as well, but they have got Connor Woodrow. But it's going to be maybe if they can get enough goals.
Yeah, I mean, I think DK was obviously a big player for them. But as I said, I think the majority of their squad have stayed. So there is some consistency there. I'm not sure if they brought anyone in, but yeah. So for me, they'll just miss out.
Okay, and some of this is covering Dan's face, so I do apologise about that, Dan. But some are 13th. We've got some 17ths in there as well. But you're going for 7 to 12. Is that right, Aaron?
That's my personal stab in the dark. Yeah.
Okay, so over to you now, Dan. You've got Birmingham City. They were managed by Aitor Karanka at the start of last season, a team that really struggled. We like to play Birmingham City, don't we? But now they look like they did stay up. They hit a bit of form at the end. And where do you think they'll finish this season? Birmingham City.
Yeah, we do like playing against Birmingham. Proved again last season. Second one. A lot harder than the first, but yeah, I'm not going to sit here with this is the go for the majority of the teams and sit here of all of us like we're experts. And obviously, I'm sure there'll be fans of watching that will know more. But I think that they did struggle, Birmingham, last season. They did pick up some form towards the end of the season, like you say. But I'm gonna go. What was the second to bottom almost surviving? What's that category?
13 to 21.
Yeah, I'm gonna go there. That's where I'm gonna go with Birmingham. I think that they may finish mid-table, but I think it's more likely they'll finish there. And yeah, that's my prediction.
And these categories, just to confirm, are automatic promotion, 2 teams, playoffs, 4 positions, 7 to 12, 13 to 21, and relegation back to League One. Well, maybe not back to League One, maybe to League One for the first time. But John, you are next, and you've got Blackburn Rovers. Now, they had a 20-plus goal scorer in their team. And if you listen to me, that should get you promotion to the Premier League. They have obviously Adam Armstrong, but they didn't. They had a really poor second half of the season, if I can recall. Blackburn Rovers this season.
Yeah, Adam Armstrong is the secret weapon, of course, but now they don't have Harvey Elliott anymore on loan, who was a massive player for them last season in terms of goals and assists. And as much as they started well, they absolutely fell off a cliff as the season progressed. And I think that's a relatively sort of familiar position for Blackburn in the Championship over the last few years. They've looked like they might do something, and then it's just never materialized. And at the moment, the bigger thing is they haven't signed a single person, single player. So, they've lost, a few older players. Stuart Downing's gone, Corey Evans has gone, so a few players you're familiar with. But I think Blackburn will struggle this season. I really do. They might well do enough to get Adam Armstrong to get another 20-odd goals, but they had a goal difference of plus 11 last season. That still dropped them in 17th, 18th, quite far down the table. So yeah, in that 13 to 21 range, quite comfortably, I would say, for Blackburn this season.
Do you think they can keep Adam Armstrong, John?
I think they could, but I would say Armstrong is definitely in a position where he could easily start to force a move. Because if he doesn't play, they don't get anywhere. They're in real risk of relegation. If he doesn't play, they're relegation fodder, probably. So if he says, right, I'm packing it in, I'm not doing anything, they need to sell him to get money to bring in new players. So I would imagine he'll be leaving by the end of this transfer window. At which point they need to bring in some new players to try and make up that position. But they'll get a lot of money for Armstrong, and they should be able to bring in, a striker, a winger, a playmaker, a couple of players to sort of make up that shortfall. And they shouldn't get relegated at all. But I don't think they're going to do brilliantly this season.
I'm going to cheat then, guys. Do you know what? I'm going to leave it all to you until we get to Bournemouth. So back to you, Aaron, and you're going to have Bristol City. Again, a team that was sort of looking like they were going to do something last season. Then they fell out. They sort of dropped down to that mid-table. Pearson came in and they thought he would be their saviour, but it sort of did die off in the end, didn't it?
Yeah, they dropped like a stone. And Pearson was one of the managers that although I don't actually like the guy, I thought he would have been a good fit. Well, a good manager for us, because I think he normally gets results and does well. So they're a funny team, Bristol City. A sleeping giant, really. They've never been in the Premier League, and it's a team as big as Bristol. A city like Bristol, be knocking on the door. They did drop like a stone last season, although having started well, they were kind of in amongst the playoffs. I think that they will finish above where they did last season, Again, they won't struggle. I don't think they're good enough for the playoffs, but I think with Pearson there, I think they'll certainly be in the probably I'll say mid-table. I don't think they'll be pushing for the playoffs. I think, as I said, the Pearson effect will potentially pick them up a little bit, but I would go for the 7th to 12th, but probably near the bottom half of that.
Really?
I think so.
Oh,
Wow.
challenge coming in. Challenge coming in from John on 7 to 12. Take it away, John.
I'm not going to dig into that opinion at all because they could do well, but my God, they literally had the worst XG against all season last season.
Yeah,
Wickham.
I would have had them down near the.
Worse than Wickham defensively.
The only reason I would say
I don't
is
want to dig into Bristol City fans at all, but the team was awful.
You think Nigel Pearson masterclass is coming in?
I just think that there are far worse teams to come than them, and I think that I think when I say 7 to 12, they'll be nowhere near the playoffs. Don't get me wrong, but I think I would say 12 personally if we could give a specific position. But as in not 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. So it's just a category that we're given. I just think there are far worse teams, really poor teams in this division, who we can come on to. Yeah, push maybe 13th, 14th. So I wouldn't argue they slipped into that. I think they'll sort of be between 12th and 15th. So it potentially in the next category down. Then I'm not gonna argue heavily against it because, as John said, they finished the season poorly. But I just think they should. I think they should be doing better than they were. That's all.
Oh, definitely.
Did you cave in, Aaron? What was your final decision? It's your
team.
No,
I'm happy to go for 13 to 21, but I would say right near the top of that 13 to 21 group.
Okay, so Bristol City go in there. Now, remember, I'm open to a different opinion and I'll throw that out to the team. So if someone wants to interject, that's fine. Remember, I've got my yellow card and my red card, though. So it has to be sportsmanlike if you're going to come in, all right? Because I will put suspensions and sin bins, all right? But we're back on it. And the next team is Dan. I nearly did it again, Dan.
You did!
It's Cardiff City. So over to you, Dan. Cardiff City. Mick McCarthy came in last season and they made a mini dash towards the playoffs, but again, they fell short.
Yeah, they were in the playoffs at one stage and they leapfrog us when they beat us. Am I right in saying that? Yeah, and that was a horrible game to watch. And they were physical. They're very, very physical. Got the goal from a header and a penalty, if I remember correctly. And yeah, they did. They look like they could be real contenders, and I don't see why they can't be contenders again. As I said, I don't know an awful amount about their signings, their team situation, but from when we last played them and their form up to the end of the season was pretty decent, if I remember correctly. And yeah, I'm going to put them. What is it? 7th to 12th? Is that right? Yeah, I'm going to put them in. I'll put them in there. Yeah,
7th to 12th. I'm pretty happy with that, and I'm sure you guys will agree with it as well. So 7th to 12th, Mick McCarthy. You've got an interesting one, John. So you're next, and that's Derby County. Stayed up, didn't they, on the last day of the season? Plenty of off the field concerns for Wayne Rooney all round, on and off the pitch. Derby County, John.
Yeah. I mean, this is probably one of the easiest ones to put in at the moment. But the relegation, there's nowhere but down for Derby at the moment, unfortunately. And I kind of just as someone that sort of really likes when the underdogs do well, I was so hoping Wickham would stay up and Derby would go down at the end of last season, and it almost happened. But yeah, if I could predict, I'd put them 24th because Wayne Rooney's not shown anything to tell me that he's actually really that good as a manager. They'll have lost a few players. They've lost some experienced heads as well, some really, really experienced heads. Now, just looking down the list I have here, who is it they've lost? Andre Wisdom was a big player for them. Curtis Davis is a massive leader in that team. Martin Waghorn scored quite a few goals for them. Scott Malone, whatever you think of him, he's gone. Scott Carson's gone. Jack Marriott's a good player. He's gone.
They're not going to get anyone in apparently either. Rooney said if we can't even field a squad.
No, they haven't brought in any players yet. So at the moment they've got 13 players on their roster, not including youth players. So and they're allowed to bring in 5 free transfers now, I believe. Like, they've barely got a team together. Yeah, it's easy relegation fodder. I cannot see any scenario where Derby County stay up. Even if Rooney leaves and they bring in some mastermind, they're still not getting out of relegation zone.
Here's a question for you. There's a certain player that used to play for Bournemouth that's looking for a football team. That's Mark Pugh, by the way. He's gone up north, but he's looking for a football team. They probably can't pay his wages, to be fair. But didn't they say, John? Didn't they say that they've been given permission to sign players out of contract, and that's it?
A 5, I believe, is the total they're allowed to sign, which would bring their total of a squad to 18, which is enough to fill the bench. But as soon as they get an injury, it's youth players only. So, that's interesting. Sign Ryan Allsop.
Yeah.
Well, he was out of contract.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Mark Cole. I think I did see that earlier on that team, but thank you for that, Mark Cole.
But that must be the first one they're looking to bring in. But yeah, I think Derby County, I just can't see them doing anything other than going down.
Okay, so they're going for automatic promotion. That's what you're saying, John. Okay, in the relegation zone, Derby to League One. Next one then, Aaron. And this team may be strong. Manager just currently left the club. Marco Silva is now in charge, if I'm correct. And they've just signed Harry Wilson for £12 million. They'll get 3 free kicks out of that. And what do you think Fulham will do this season, Aaron?
Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of Marco Silva, for being honest. A lot of friends who support Watford, don't shoot me for that. And they really didn't take to him at all, and some Everton fans as well. So he's a decent manager, but I don't think he's in the league of some of the other ones. They'll clearly be relatively strong. I would say, without going into too much detail, I don't think they're good enough for automatic. I would think playoffs definitely for me. And
that Harry Wilson deal, what's your thoughts on that, Aaron?
Yeah, it's interesting. That's what people are saying. Oh, why didn't we not go in for him again? He can turn up. He can clearly do some great things with the football, but some of having watched a lot of him the season before last, he goes missing in games for long periods of time. Obviously, the Championship's probably more of his level than when he was with us in the Premier League, and he clearly has something about him. But no, not for me. I think we got a few players in that position who can do a similar job.
Just confirm that position again for me, Aaron.
Playoffs for me.
Playoffs. Fulham, the first team in the playoffs come May. And over to you, Dan. And this is Hull City. They were top of League One, 89 points. Obviously, they've got experience of being in the Premier League and the Championship. What are you expecting from our first promoted team from League One?
Yeah, it's often hard to call how well a promoted team will do. I think that obviously they came first in League One. I think from what I'm hearing as well, they're tipped to do quite well. Like, a lot of people think they'll do pretty decent. When I say pretty decent, I don't mean like playoffs, but I mean sort of mid-table-ish. I think with my extensive knowledge on Hull City, I'm gonna chuck them. Do you know what? I'm gonna go 7th to 12th for Hull City.
Really?
Yeah.
God, dear.
I've got a feeling, but obviously, yeah, you can interject.
No, I wouldn't.
I
would say, I definitely don't think they'll go down. As I said, other teams who came up and other teams already in the league are far worse than them. But I would think 13th to 21st. I think they'll be in that lower echelons of the league, maybe pushing 13th, 14th, 15th. I don't know, but I don't think they'll get top 12. But then again, as Dan said, I'm not an extensive expert on them either.
But remember, Dan, you did phone a friend, but you don't have to go with it. So you're going to stick with your 7 to 12, or are you going to go into the 13?
With all my knowledge of, as I said, of Hull City, I'm going to stick with it. You know what? We're going to stick with it. We're going to stick with it.
And you know what?
Disapproval.
Leicester City won the Premier League once.
Exactly.
And you always get a surprise package. So Dan's stuck with it, and he's gone 7th to 12th, Hull City. We'll see. Next team then, John. And hoping to go to this game in a few weeks' time. First away game for AFC Bournemouth. Nottingham Forest. It was a drab 0-0 last season when we went there. Could have done with getting a result on the day. But John, Nottingham Forest, what are you expecting this season?
Nottingham Forest is an interesting one because they were looked at last season as, probably going to be a quite solid team because behind the scenes they're a mess, but they think, okay, you bring in an experienced head can someone remind me of the manager's name? It's gone from me.
Houghton.
There you go, Chris Houghton.
Yeah.
You bring in a player like that, you can bring in a manager like that, set up the team defensively well, is experienced at getting the team out of teams out of the championship. He's been promoted at least twice, maybe even 3 times. And they should be fine. And then they absolutely struggle, and it takes them quite a while to get themselves going. I think that sort of momentum should shift them forward. I reckon Houghton's a manager that's trusted by the upper management at Nottingham Forest. They'll move on quite a bit of the dead wood, and should bring in probably just a couple of players that fit more into his system, and I reckon they'll do fine. You see, I think they'll finish 7 to 12, but the problem is you've got 2 teams in there that I don't think are going to finish 7 to 12, and they're 2 faces. So I'm going to stick with 7 to 12. But yeah, I am going to stick with 7 to 12 because I do legitimately think they will finish upper mid-table, because I just think it's been a year, more experience with Chris Houghton in that squad. He's going to get rid of a bit of the dead wood, bring in a few players that I think will support the kind of thing that he wants to see, and I reckon they'll take on. They won't reach anywhere near, I don't think, playoffs, but I think they'll be comfortably.
Yeah, they'll be near playoffs. I've got a feeling they might be near playoffs.
No, I don't think so.
Well, Jamie says Chris Houghton has never failed to make a playoffs when given a full season. Fun fact, for us.
I would say that sounds like a great stat. But I would say that he hasn't been in charge of a team that's quite the mess that Nottingham Forest was when he started. And did he not have a full season with Nottingham Forest?
I think he did.
Quite.
I'm pretty sure he was with Nottingham Forest before the start, before the first ball was kicked in the beginning of last season. I'm pretty sure he was Forest. So I might actually look that up and then just completely debunk that stat immediately.
All I'm saying is that on the beach middle section of the tier list is starting to grow already.
Well, yeah. I mean, we can rejig it at the end.
I was going to say that. Can we change the order if we need to?
We can rejig it.
If you want a yellow card, no problem. So we'll move on to the next team. And the next team is the next promoted team. And we're going back to Aaron. And that's Peterborough. And talking of Peterborough, AFC Bournemouth are supposedly linked with Clark Harris, someone who scored 31 goals, 27 now. I mean, we could do with a number 9 striker like that, couldn't we? But Peterborough, I mean, what are you expecting from them this season, Aaron?
Really difficult one. If they lose Clark Harris, it's going to be a struggle for them. They've always seemed to have reasonably good strikers down the years. It's between 2 categories for me. They're clearly going to be either the 13th to 21st or relegation. I'm going to stick my neck out and I'm saying I don't think they're going to be relegated because I've got 2 other teams in mind who I think will be relegated along with Derby. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they'll be comfortably clear, but I think they'll be in that 13th to 21st spot.
Oh, the chat's not agreeing with you. Is it dependent on them keeping Clark Harris? Would that change if they lose him?
Not necessarily. No, I think that I just think they're a well-run club, well organised, and I just think, as I said, there are 2 other teams who I would tip for relegation more.
Okay, so you're going just outside, in that sort of outside the relegation, Peterborough. Yeah. They're going to be safe. They're going to have an okay season for them. And the next team, God, they're going to be on the beach. They're on the beach every year, aren't they, Dan? And that's Preston North End. Saying that, they did put us to bed at Dean Court last year, but we did get a very good player off them in January. And I think it was a draw in the away game at Preston?
Yes. 1-1? Yeah, it was 1-1, wasn't it?
Yeah, Preston North End. I mean, they all show a little bit like they're going to do something, but ultimately over 46 games, it just sort of ends up being middle of the road, doesn't it?
Didn't they, when we played them first, in fact, to be fair, you could argue both games, but especially the first game, wasn't it when Scott Sinclair scored that outrageous goal? Yeah. I remember everyone saying after that game, all the Bournemouth fans, they look really good. One of the best teams we played all season based on that specific performance. Yeah, where did they finish last season, Preston, in the end?
Preston finished 13th.
13th, with some decent form. 4 wins out of the last 5. So, yeah, it's a difficult one because they seem to be a bit inconsistent in that sense. I think that obviously they haven't. We've obviously stole Pearson off them, which was a very important player for them. I think they will finish. I feel like it'll be just below the not just below the relegation. I think they'll be in 13th to 21. I think that's where they'll finish. Yeah. I think they'll be the higher part of it. I think, but I think they'll be there.
Okay, and we've still not put our automatic teams in yet. There's 3 spaces for the playoffs and 2 more for relegation. And over to you, John. And Reading, I called it last season early on. I said they're not making the playoffs. Pretty much repeated myself every week, and they didn't make the playoffs. But Reading, I mean, are they going to? I think they did outperform last season. To be fair, I mean, are they going to sort of replicate what they did last year, or are they going to do better or worse?
If you had a bottom 6, I would have them in there. I think Reading are going to fall like a stone because their wage turnover over the last few years has been terrible. They've really struggled financially. And then when you look at the fact that they sold Elise, who was one of their biggest players, to Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
Omar Richards has gone on a free. They haven't. I don't think they've brought in anyone yet. No new revivals. Sonny Aluko's gone. Sam Baldock has gone as well. And who was that other good?
Zhao still there? See?
Sorry?
Is Lucas Zhao still there?
Lucas Zhao will still be there, unless he was a loan signing, but I'm pretty sure he was permanent. But then he was also a bit of a mixed bag as well. He wasn't the consistent player that we kind of looked like he might be at the start of the season. And after doing brilliantly in the first 8 games, their record after that is bottom half. And losing a couple of great players, not really having the money to bring in a new player. I don't rate their manager. I'm really not sure they're going to do well. I don't think they're going to get relegated, but they're 13 to 21 for me, quite comfortably.
Ooh, yeah.
Aaron,
no, but I don't think they'll be anywhere near relegation. I don't disagree with John necessarily, but I think if they're going to be in that category, they'll be more 13th. I don't think they'll challenge for the playoffs. I don't think they'll be anywhere near relegation. But I think I don't disagree necessarily with that category. But if they weren't in that category, they'd be like 12th, but no higher than that. So it's just interesting. I think they've still got Ajaria, haven't they, and Zhao. And I mean, they've obviously got some decent players. And again, it comes down to the fact that they're worse teams than them, and they clearly are.
Okay, so we're halfway through, I think, in this tier list of this championship predictions for next season, where they might finish come the end of May, and we still haven't filled those automatic places, still places in the playoffs, and still 2 teams to go down to League One. Have you hit that like button yet? Please do help the channel, hit that like button and subscribe as well. We're going to finish this in just a moment. And back over to who's next? Is it Dan?
I think it's me again after John.
Yeah, exactly.
I just did Reading.
So it's over to Aaron, and you've now got Stoke City. And I tell you what, that's not on my list for an away day. I'm not going to lie. And it'll end. When is Stoke anyway? It's probably going to be in December or January.
It's definitely a Tuesday night in November.
Going to be 100%. Stoke City, though, I am seeing some stuff on sort of social media that they predicting that maybe Stoke City will do okay, but I do sort of see this every season before a season starts.
Yeah, I mean, look, they got a relatively decent manager in O'Neill. I think he's got some pedigree. They're a horrible team to play against sometimes, but they're not the nasty team that they used to be. I don't think. Again, I don't think that they're going to trouble either end of the table personally. Much, if I'm being honest. So I would see them comfortably mid-table, not in any relegation trouble, but not really. There might be a stage of a season where we think, oh, they could make a dash for the playoffs, but they won't have that run that they need. So it's a really tough one for me, but because they could either go in the 12th or 13th, 14th spot. But on the basis that Dan's already plugged a couple of the other teams in the 7th to 12th, I would go with Stoke, and because I don't particularly like Stoke anyway, I've got bad memories about Stoke. I'm not going to put them in those top three, so I'm going to put them in the 13 to 21 category. But again, they'll be near the top of that category.
By the way, Stoke away is Tuesday the 19th of October.
Oh, there you go.
Always.
See you there, boys.
Who makes this up? I mean, it's like they say it's a computer system that generates the fixtures. I'm not sure about that.
What was the result last season away? What was the result last season away?
There you go.
1-0.
1-0. And who scored it? Junior
Stanislas.
Stanislas. Get in. So we're going to go over to our next one, and that is an interesting team. Now, potentially, they might be pushing Dan for automatics or the playoffs, and that's West Bromwich Albion, relegated from the Premier League. What are you expecting from this Midlands team?
Okay. I think West Brom, they look... I mean, my opinion may be completely different if this was Sam Allardyce managing. But I think Ismail, is that his name? I can't remember. Yeah, Ismail. I thought he was really good, and he clearly players work very, very hard under him, which is good. And West Brom are going to have, well, they do have a very, very good team, and it's going to be strong. They've just come down from the Premier League. They're going to have obviously parachute payments, like we did as well. And personally, for me, West Brom win it, and they go up automatic.
Ooh. Top, because they've got some good strikers there. I'm just looking at the squad now, and even they've got the likes of Snodgrass. Might not be the quickest. Matt Phillips will add goals. I mean, Jake Livermore's got experience. You know, Sawyers is a player that's got ability on his day, and Alex Moat I like as well. I thought that maybe Bournemouth could have snapped that one up on a good deal.
Okay.
Yeah, they signed Moat as well. But it's interesting, Dan, because you talk there about Ismail. Someone who took Barnsley, had nothing to lose, threw everything at it. I mean, they were very much gung-ho as a football team. Sure. This is a different package now for him. You know, there is risk involved. Do you expect him to play the same way, or do you think he'll be more reserved in certain games?
I don't see. I think that he will play relatively similar football, and Barnsley did play good football, and obviously it's a completely different situation with the team coming down, and there is now expectation rather than there being basically no expectation with Barnsley. But I just think that if we use Bournemouth as the example here, and if we had Ismail coming down, let's say theoretically, if we come down like West Brom and we had got a manager like that, that had some experience, done well in the Championship, to be honest, anyone, even Woodgate for a full season, possibly, I think we would have done significantly better. And I think that when you bring in, when West Brom got them, I went, oh, they've got the league. I think that they're just going to be too strong. They've got a very, very good group of players, and even with an average manager or slightly below average manager, that they're still going to be competing for automatic. So when you put a manager that's done well in the Championship recently, has got good ideas, gets his team working very hard, playing good football, everyone knows what they're doing in this system, I think that it screams first place for me personally.
Okay, first place, and there was some first places in the chat for West Brom, so they're sort of agreeing with you. Next team then, John, and it's Coventry City. I think they did very well last season, not getting relegated. We had Gary McSheffrey on the channel as well. I mean, they didn't have a very good Friday night against us, did they? I mean, I think Dan Gosling got a few, didn't he? But yeah, I mean, Coventry City, I mean, is it going to be a second-year struggle for them?
No, I'm pretty confident that Coventry will do fine. I think Coventry went about going into the Championship exactly the way that Bournemouth did when they came up into the Championship. They attacked it. They play football the way that you want to see football played. I think they've probably ended up having to have a little bit of change around, I think, in all likelihood, because they don't have one of the biggest budgets in the league by any stretch. But they did bring in Martin Waghorn from Derby, who's definitely going to give them a good few goals. Haven't looked like they lost anyone really of note. But yeah, I just think the way they play will always get them wins. They will struggle defensively at times. They don't have the greatest defense, and obviously going up against a team like Bournemouth that play in a similar way and just have better players all round, they're going to struggle. But they flirted a bit with a back three. They changed things around to more of a 4-3-3 at times. But yeah, I just think I think the manager has got everything that he can out of those players for long periods of the Championship. And as much as they struggle at times, I don't see them at any risk of going down this season, to be honest. They're not going to push into the top half, I don't think, as much as maybe in a year or two they could. For now, I think it's a pretty safe 13 to 21 for me.
And do make me aware if I'm putting too many teams in one section, because I'm trying to count as I go along. Over to you, Aaron. And Huddersfield, a team that struggled. I think they were a second-year parachment payment team after being relegated from the Premier League. We battered them, didn't we, at Dean Court when we had a few fans back in the stadium. And we did really well against them. But they didn't get relegated. But I do fear for Huddersfield this year,
You're right, they didn't get relegated last season, but they will this season. I think their time is up. I think they've been on a downward spiral for some time now. I think they're a soft touch. I don't think they brought many players in. I agree with John, because I think Coventry will be okay. So I'm looking at who's left, and I think Huddersfield are going to be the ones to fall this season. It's a shame. I got nothing against Huddersfield at all, but I just think they're going to struggle this season. I think this is the year they go down to League One.
And that's a Saturday midday kickoff, by the way. No, I'm only joking. And a lot of the fans are actually agreeing with you in the chat as well. The Cherries Red Army followers, they're agreeing with you. I don't want to bring a negative to this, Aaron, but I do worry for AFC Bournemouth if we don't get promoted, that we're almost on a similar track to Huddersfield. And I don't want to dwell on it, but I just want to put it out there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The ownership situation might be different. I don't know. But no, you're right. I mean, at some stage, we're going to, who knows how long this journey is going to go on for, because for me, we're still on this journey. We might not be in the Premier League anymore, but we're still, one of the favourites to certainly be in the promotion mix, if not to get promoted from the Championship. So for me, that's still, a bit of a dream world. So, but yeah, I'd like to think we're some time away from that, and hopefully we won't get in that situation if we can make a return to the Premier League in the next year or two.
Huddersfield join Wayne Rooney's Derby as the second team, we think, being relegated from the Championship at the end of this season. And the next team on the list, Dan, is we're all looking for away days, and this one always crops up. It's Kenilworth Road, and hopefully we can get there for an away day before they potentially build a new stadium, because we're always talking about a new stadium. But Luton Town, we struggled against them last year, didn't we? Both times, home and away. I mean, what are you expecting from Luton this season?
What was it? What was it? The first game? What was the score the first time we played them?
0-0. Begovic saved in the last kick of the game, and wasn't it 1-1 at home?
I thought it was it.
Didn't we lose at home? Lerma got sent off, didn't he?
Oh, you might be right there, actually.
No, in the chat, let us know. Some will know. Did we lose to Luton at home? Why am I thinking it was 1-1? We definitely drew 0-0 away, didn't we?
0-0 away, yeah, and that was a...
Lerma definitely got sent off, but I can't remember if we lost or drew now.
I think we probably did lose that one 1-0, I think you're right, because Lerma got sent off and we didn't hold out.
But they finished 12th last year, Dan. They've got an ex-AFC Bournemouth player in their team. He didn't actually make an appearance for AFC Bournemouth in the first team. But yeah, I mean, Luton Town, old-fashioned stadium. Are they staying up?
Yes, I believe they will stay up. Again, we're going back to my extensive knowledge on other Championship teams, and we're looking at Luton, and it's not. I'm not going to sit here, and there are teams that I know more about than Luton, but I know that the two games that we did play them, they weren't brilliant games. I'm going to say it's safe to go mid-table with them, and I think that's a safe bet, I think. But was it 12th you say they finished last season?
They finished 12th, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we'll put them in 7th to 12th then. Why not? Yeah, that sounds about right. I think that's where I can picture them to finish.
7 to 12 for Luton Town, and they did finish 12th last season. And back to you, John. And this is a long day if you decide to go on a away day up north, and that's up to Middlesbrough. Britt Sumbalonga's on his way. I think he's gone to Turkey. So that's one less goal than what they'll score next season. But John, what do you think Middlesbrough will do this season?
Sumbalonga going is quite literally one less goal that they will score, considering how well he has done for them. Ashley Fletcher's gone as well. He's gone to Watford on a free. He was another good strike, on a free. So at the moment, goals might be a little more difficult for them to come by with those two having gone. But being a Warnock team, you know that he's going to come up with something around it. Sammy Amiobi has gone to them from Nottingham Forest. And Matt Crooks from Rotherham is a very good signing, I think. Very Warnock signing, massive centre-back to deal with absolutely everything that comes into the box. And Ikpeatsu from Wickham, I think, is a really good signing as well. I think this is all about the manager. With a full season, having done more with the squad, having got them doing exactly what he wants them to do, there's no way that they're not making the playoffs for me. They may not be the greatest team to make it to that position. They may well 1-0 and 0-0 their way there, but it's Warnock. It's just like he just gets it done. And I don't think this Middlesbrough team are going to go up. I think even if they get to the playoffs, they're probably going to be the least favourite team to go up, quite possibly. But yeah, I have them very comfortably making the playoffs for me.
It's interesting, and there are some fans in the chat that think Middlesbrough will make the playoffs. And if they do make the playoffs, the Middlesbrough fans will be very happy. Did you hear that Neil Warnock carries a signed photo of himself in a bum bag? So
I saw that. And as soon as I saw him move to go, I was like, I cringed so hard I had to turn it off and just move on because that was unbelievable. What was even better was I think I shared it on Twitter, of the preseason game where he is shouting expletives constantly at the assistant referee and the ref. And it's a preseason game against, I think, a non-league side. And all you can hear through the thing is him absolutely swearing his mouth off at the assistant ref for giving an offside call. And then it pans and the game keeps going, and a minute later he's still shouting at the assistant ref, which is on the other side of the pitch to where the ball is. It's just ridiculous.
He hasn't changed from the Sheffield United days, has he? And it goes round back to you, Aaron, and you've now got Millwall. Do you want this on your away day list? Millwall, again, another team that I class like Preston. I think they finished 11th last year. Again, they done well against us in that January spell. That contributed towards JT's reign ending at AFC Bournemouth. But they're a team that's probably on the beach come end of March.
Yeah. I've been to Millwall a few times, and from where I live, it's a nice, easy away trip. They'll win a couple of games at the beginning of the season. Their fans will get all excited and think they're going to make a push, but they'll come nowhere near. I based on who's left and based on the decisions you've already made, I'm going to put them in a 13 to 21 category. I think again that they'll be on the beach. They'll be nowhere near relegation, obviously, but they won't be pushing. We will want to be playing them come May again for me.
Okay, just to confirm, I think we filled up the 13 to 21. Okay, so just to confirm that. Now, the next team, Dan, is a very interesting team. Now got Charlie Austin permanently after a loan signing, and they have signed some really good players, actually. I'll list some in a moment. But I am seeing a lot of good reaction to potentially QPR doing well this season. They finished 9th last season.
QPR for me, playoffs. I think that they from based on last season as well, they ended the season, if I remember, really, really strongly. They were they're probably right up there in terms of the certain last third or whatever of the season. They were really, really good, and I think they'll be doing really good. Again, they played, what was it? They 2-1. They beat us last time we played them. Yeah, not a great game for us, but yeah, and they've got Charlie Austin is an absolute menace, and based on their form just alone, and I reckon playoffs is a good shout for them.
John or Aaron, you might know Jordan Archer. There wasn't that the goalkeeper that was trialing out for us in the Betway Cup last season?
He was, yeah.
They've got some experience in there.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're a good team. I think Warburton's an excellent manager. I think Dan's right. I think they're going to be a real threat this year, and playoffs for me. Yeah.
And they got Elias Chair as well, haven't they?
And they just won 4-2 against Manchester United. So
yeah, they did. Let's have a look at the chat actually, because I haven't caught up. So we've got a 4 from Chris. Thanks for joining us, Jamie. Some really good stuff in the chat. Thank you very much. 8th, we've got a 5th from JK up the Cherries. Got Mark with a 5th. So yeah, I think generally 9th, 5th. I think they're sort of agreeing with you. So do you put them in that playoff positions, didn't you, Dan?
Yes, I would put them.
There is one more playoff position available, one more automatic, 1 relegation, and 3 teams. And John, Sheffield.
You're missing Swansea, by the way.
Yeah.
Where is Swansea?
Swansea aren't there. You forget about
them.
them.
They're not even in the list.
Probably just after us, but because it's a black swan, it blends in with the background.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Because we can't see Derby properly.
Yeah,
it might be.
There you go.
Very good. We know what we're doing on this show. We all the preparation goes in, and make sure you subscribe and hit that like button. Okay, so back to where we were, and we're on Sheffield United, relegated from the Premier League last season. John, maybe without Aaron Ramsdale, is he going to Arsenal? Who knows? But Sheffield United, remember, they've got a 20+ goal scorer in their team in Rhian Brewster.
We'll see. It's never. If you've ever noticed, it's not a good thing to break the budget on bringing in a youngster from Liverpool. It never works out well.
Yeah.
This was the really awkward one for me when I was doing my table, in that I really wasn't sure whether Fulham or Sheffield United would be the automatic promotion team. Now, I personally think it'll be Fulham, but that's taken already. Fulham are already in the playoffs in this one, so I have to put them second here. But it is a really close call, because I do think West Brom will be top, and it'll be a battle between Fulham and Sheffield United for second. So Sheffield United second here. They do have a wealth of attacking players in McBurney, Brewster, McGoldrick, Lys Mousset. If Lys Mousset's played as an actual number 9 and given the room to run, he'll be a 20+ goal scorer this season, I reckon. Because he actually is that good, and Eddie didn't never use him as a number 9. So I think he's good enough to really get a lot of goals. But Brewster will probably take that slot instead, and he'll knock in probably double figures. Defensively, we'll see. Aaron Ramsdale. I would like Aaron Ramsdale to go to Arsenal. Not only does that mean he won't play us, but it also means we'll get a nice chunk of that money with a 15% sell-on fee. And if it's as much as the probably 20-30 that they're looking to ask for him, that's a nice wad of cash that will come into us as well. It's the manager as well, I think, is possibly the reason why I would. It's probably the biggest argument for me as to why you put Sheffield United second instead of Fulham. Is the manager? Is it Jukanovic? Yeah. Yes, Jukanovic. Yeah. Who? Yeah, has done it. Has been and done it before with teams that not Watford hadn't come down and were going back up. I don't think Watford were in the Championship for a bit at that point, and he took them up. But Fulham, they went down. He took them straight back up. His management, his record in the Prem isn't great, but in the Championship it's outstanding. And I think that's a really good reason as to why he will get them going again, and probably take them back up. There's a lot of really good players in that team still, and I would very much expect them to see fighting for automatic.
Do you know what? I was almost going to call them the playoffs, but then you just remind me that Jukanovic is the manager, and I do like Jukanovic, and he could be the difference. Aaron, Blackpool, promoted from League One through the playoffs. They're gonna, again, they've got experience of being in the Premier League before and going through those historic rises, then falling back down. I mean, could they be a surprise package this season?
Nailed on playoffs. Put them there now. No. If you want to go to Blackpool, this is your season to do it, because they ain't staying in this league for long. And it's Valentine's Day, so there's a nice romantic trip on Valentine's Day. No, Blackpool, yeah, it's another seaside town. But that they are joining Huddersfield and Derby in the bottom three.
And I'll do just that. Let's put Blackpool in the relegation with Derby and Huddersfield. So we've got one more playoff position and one more spot between 7th and 12th. And the next team, Dan, is Swansea. Now, this is where we might need to jig this a little bit, because Swansea needed to go up last season. They've sort of gone through their parachute payments now.
Yeah.
Ayew's gone. It looks like Grimes is off. The manager's gone because apparently players are being sold that he didn't want to be sold. They're not in a good way at all. I mean, I saw Eddie Howe linked with them. No chance. There's no way Eddie Howe's going there.
Relegation. No, I am joking. I'm not joking. Yeah. I mean, we will have to rejig something here because I believe they're going to be lower down. I think we said this time. I don't know how they finished where they did. It just like we played both times we played them. They just weren't good at all. There was some of our we should have beaten them the first time we played them. From that, we should have had a penalty. But even the second time we played them, it was probably one of our easiest performances that we've that we've had last season. And I think for the reasons that you mentioned there, I think that 13th to 21st, and we might have to rejig one team up one, but I'm not sure who that would be. But
Hurahan's gone as well, I presume.
Well, Hurahan was alone.
Yeah, so he's gone.
He was great as well. He's gone.
Ayew's gone.
Woodman,
Ayew's
gone.
Grimes potentially.
Gone to Abu Dhabi, Dubai.
They're definitely struggling.
Patrick says Swansea are done this season. Right, let's go back to the tier list then, because I do agree. I think they need to go in the 13 to 21. Just very quickly, yes or no then, John, in the 13 to 21 or not?
Yeah.
Aaron, in the 13 to 21 or not?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we're going to have to move to someone out of 13 to 21. Ooh. So who would you move out then? I'll go back to Dan because you started off. Who are you going to replace Swansea with? Who's going to go into the 7 to 12 from that row of 13 to 21?
Maybe Preston, maybe?
Preston? John?
Preston, yeah.
Birmingham. Easy call for me.
Birmingham.
Well, as soon as they changed their manager, their form skyrocketed. Absolutely skyrocketed because they had enough players to... I mean, who's their massive striker? I've forgotten the name of. The name escapes me now. I've forgotten his blooming name. But he wasn't used by Karanka at all. Jutkovic, there we go. Jutkovic, 6'5", 6", massive striker.
Mm-hmm.
Get the ball into the box, out from out wide, cross it into him, and he'll score 20 goals. Because no one can deal with that height. But it's like Birmingham's form absolutely skyrocketed as soon as I'm awful with names at the moment.
The new manager came in.
Lee Bowyer. Yeah. As soon as he came in. For me, it's Birmingham out of those because
I'm not against that.
For me, it's Blackburn, no, Bristol, no, Peterborough, no, Preston, maybe, Reading, no, Stoke, maybe, Coventry, no, and Millwall. Actually, Millwall, I think, could be up there as well. So they actually have a goal scorer up front.
Aaron, should we just?
Well, I wanted Bristol in the first place, so I know everyone disagrees with me. But
I'll join you with Bristol then, Aaron.
Yeah, let's go with that then. At least that makes it more of a Yeah.
Okay.
I think you're right. It could be Birmingham, it could be Millwall, it could be Stoke, it could be Bristol. But
okay.
Yeah.
Nigel Pearson, you've gone up into 7 to 12. Okay, and there's one team left, and it's our AFC Bournemouth. Rico probably isn't going to be part of this team. In a few weeks' time, it looks like he's on his way back to Spain. AFC Bournemouth, then, we finished in the playoffs. We had a good first leg, not so good second leg, and now we're a second-year parachute payment team in the Championship. So we'll go round. I'll start with Aaron again. So AFC Bournemouth, I know there's one position left, but how are you feeling about this season? Where are we going to be in May?
Yeah, I would have put us in the playoffs before we did this exercise. I'd love to be a dreamer and think we can get top 2. I think there is intent there. I think Parker's appointment shows some intent. We know we're going to lose some players. We've obviously lost some already, but we're going to probably lose one or at least 2 important players. I would imagine. I obviously can't see Danjuma staying. I think increasingly looking likely that Lerma will go. Other than that, obviously Rico's gone and Begovic has gone. I'd like to think we keep everyone else. It's about who we're going to bring in. I do think some of the youth certainly are ready to play more regular first team football. I would say Jaden Anthony for sure, Gavin Kilkenny probably, and Zamora when we need him. Those three obviously more would catch my eye. And you know, a lot comes down to injuries. We know if the likes of Pearson or Kelly or people get injured, then it's going to be a struggle. Obviously, every team can say that, but I still think our squad is certainly strong enough that. And with Parker being brought in, I would be very surprised if the minimum requirement was not playoffs. And obviously, as we know from last season, that doesn't guarantee promotion, and only 1 out of the 4 teams is going to go up. I don't think we're going to be a million miles off automatic. I don't think we're going to be completely adrift of the likes of West Brom and Sheffield United and Fulham. But there's lots of ifs and buts. But I would say overall, I would be, if you asked me now, would I take the playoffs? Absolutely. But this year I want to win them.
And Daniel just said that I deserve a yellow for moving the team. So give myself a yellow just for you, Dan. All right. Do you know what it is though, Dan? Parker project, I'm in. I'm all for it. Might take time. We're going to have to back the team. Might be some 1-0 tough wins to watch, but we'll just enjoy watching games that we can get to. But we are potentially going to lose 17 goals in Arno Danjuma. We're not sure if Dom, the GOAT, your man, can get to 20. David Brooks, we're not sure, can stay fit all season. Same with Stanislas. And remember, Billing did excel last season. I mean, I'm not sure. I do think we'll get playoffs, but we only just snuck in and we had a good goalkeeper that gave us 17 clean sheets.
This is true. However, there will always be surprises and standouts in the season, which no one predicts, and there'll always be things that go, "Oh God, they've done particularly well there." In the majority of seasons, anyway, maybe not on all seasons. Yes, we've obviously lost Begovic, and I think that's a bigger thing than maybe a lot of people realise. He kept us in so many games, but as much as many people don't have the faith in my GOAT, Dom Solanke, I do have faith in him. I think this is his season, his second season in the Championship. He obviously came down from the Premier League. He found he got some confidence. He found some form. He had a 1 season in the Championship, and this is his season. And Anthony, everyone's been raving about Anthony, and I haven't actually watched too much of pre-season, but from what John has particularly been saying, I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do. And when I've seen him play, especially last season's pre-season against West Ham, scored a beauty. There was another game that he scored. Was it might have been the Preston game? If I'm right to say.
Sorry, Jim, that one.
And that was that's what I mean. He got the assist there and looked really good. So we have got players there, and it might be Anthony that excels this season. We don't know, and we're likely going to make transfers. Danjuma, I still think he's gone. There's about a 5% chance that he stays in my eyes, personally. But he's a bit of a weird character, Danjuma. So maybe there's a bit more of a chance than we believe, and he might end up staying. And he's obviously got a bit of a longer contract, but he was such a good player for us, and we need to make a good signing to replace him if we do lose him. With that being said, we have a better manager, a much better manager, I believe, than Jonathan Woodgate and Jason Tyndall. So I think with that'll kind of balance it out. We're going to lose maybe some players. We've got a better manager, and that's going to help overall. We've got some young players coming through. Hopefully they can overachieve, and they're working hard under Scott Parker's system. I don't think playoffs is unreasonable as an expectation. I reckon playoffs is pretty. Actually, that's risky to say comfortable. I'm expecting playoffs, I would say, and obviously in Dreamland we get first or second. But I think that's with we need some things to really go away, I think, for that. So yeah, playoffs for me.
Why do I think that the more you kept chucking out stats and that Dom's going to be the GOAT, that you would just convince yourself that we're going to be on to £100 million in May? John, Dan's pretty much said it all there, but we are potentially going to lose some big players, and we needed them last season. And Parker's going to have to rely on the youth, and it's going to be some pressure, especially when we get into the business end.
Yeah, I think Bournemouth are probably about fourth at the moment. And I know that I listened to Kirk's a little 5-minute entry for the second tier podcast, which you might be on a bit more often this season. We'll see about what your thoughts were for the season. You agree with me in fourth. I think there's quite a decent chance there's going to be a top four this season in terms of Bournemouth and the three relegated sides. There's a decent chance of that because Bournemouth still have a lot of quality left in their squad. We do have less depth than we did before. There are positions we need to fill, particularly if Danjuma goes especially. We definitely need at least another winger. We're probably looking for another centre-back. We definitely need another left-back, and a goalkeeper would be great. So the more you throw out, positions where we might need more depth, you get worried about it. But the thing is that you've got to look at this as how last season went. So JT started last season. We played too many games trying to adapt to what other people did. I think three at the back did work at times, but I think it's just not necessarily the thing that we should have focused ourselves around. In the end, it cost us. What we've got now in a manager in Parker who seems to come across as a person that very much is like, this is how we're going to play and it's going to work and it's going to happen every time. And if you don't do what I'm telling you, you're going to be off the pitch. And I like that about the way that he goes about his business. And I think one of the problems that we've really sort of settled into gradually as the season went on, I think is a reliance on Danjuma. I think Woodgate in particular, as much as I feel he put a masterstroke on and putting Billing in the advanced role, and I think that the link up did work quite well. Danjuma just became the kind of player that it was like, don't worry, he'll score. Get it to him and he'll score. Whereas I think Parker is probably going to have a much better system at trying to make sure that chances are created at a better and more consistently. And I think I'm not sure whether he's necessarily going to get more out of David Brooks inherently being a better coach for David Brooks, but I think that if Brooks comes back into the kind of form that he can produce, he can now become something that very much shares equally the attacking pressure with Solanke, with Surridge if he starts getting a bit more time, with Anthony. I would really like to see him more often. Stanislas, Billing, Cook when he comes back, Marcondes coming in. You just name all those 7 players, and every single team in this, even some of the teams like probably Fulham are jealous of a few of those names in there. Defensively would be maybe the little struggle, but the thing is that the new system of the attacking high press that Parker wants to implement might make us do even better against some teams. So it's I think there are enough things that didn't go our way at the start of last season that you can kind of say, well, if we even do okay at the start of this season, that then suddenly starts to build and the momentum keeps going. The only thing I'm worried about is it's not necessarily the easiest start to the season. West Brom at home, apart from West Brom away, is the hardest game we'll have all season, I reckon. And when you're implementing and when you've got a new manager with a new system, you need to start well, because if it doesn't start well, doubts creep in quickly, and it's a really not a good side to face for the first game of the season in West Brom. I think we'll do well, and I think fourth is a reasonable target. Certainly, I think if Parker doesn't make playoffs, he's failed. But we do need to make a few more signings. But I reckon, we're a couple of signings away from having the depth to really push for playoffs, if not higher this season.
We're definitely trying to convince ourselves that we're going to finish in the playoffs. And there is our championship predictor table. When we think that 46-game final whistle goes, West Brom and Sheffield United automatics, playoffs, Fulham, Middlesbrough, QPR and Bournemouth relegated, Derby, Huddersfield and Blackpool. And if you weren't able to watch this live, just let us know your comments. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Very, very quickly then, guys, we've got some competitive game coming up at the weekend against MK Dons. We've obviously got a fixture against Chelsea in a friendly tomorrow night. Aaron, very, very quickly, what's your thoughts on those games? I mean, it is still a friendly, but it'll be nice for the fans to get back inside Dean Court.
Yeah, absolutely. I won't be going tomorrow night. I want my first game to be a really meaningful game. I can't wait to get back in. I'm not sure how he's going to go for the MK Dons. It's people talking about it as like a glorified last preseason friendly. Obviously, it is a cup game. I'll be surprised if he doesn't play majority of his first team and use it as a reason to think the team is going to start against West Brom. Other people are saying it would be completely the opposite, so it's difficult to know. But it's just good to get up and running. And obviously, as John said, it's a very, very tough first game of the season. But under the, I suppose, kind of lights, it probably still won't be dark. Hopefully a packed house, and that should lift the players. Hopefully, playing them at home. Both teams obviously with a new manager, both teams with expectations, and that's where the real business starts. So yeah, I mean, let's get off to a reasonable start, and off we go.
Dan, you're looking to get some games this season, get some away day vlogs, get them on Duron. Make sure you subscribe. 60,000 and some. Back Duron. And obviously, Chelsea, it's hard to predict. It's a friendly. We don't know what both teams are going to do. But MK Dons, I mean, can we get a score prediction for that Carabao Cup first round?
As Aaron says, it's dependent on what team we play and how we view it. I believe, I think what Aaron was saying, you think we'll play a strong team and to try and build the momentum. I don't see Parker playing a weak team there personally. I think that's a good opportunity in a competitive game, or a glorified friendly, however you look at it, to put out a good team. We will have much more of an idea-ish of what team we're going to have there, I guess. And yeah, I'm 2-0 maybe to Bournemouth, I think, would be a good estimate. And I mean, tomorrow, I don't know. We usually beat Chelsea anyway, and it depends what team they put out. Exactly. 5-0 Bournemouth for that. And yeah, looking forward to the season.
Very quickly then, John, got a couple of score predictions before the West Brom?
Yeah, well, Chelsea's interesting actually, because I think the last game that we had a full capacity, or we were able to have a capacity crowd for, was Chelsea. So it's kind of come full circle on that one. I am really looking forward to the Chelsea game, just to see how we shape up, how this high pressing style should work quite nicely against the Premier League side, but I reckon we'll then dip off in terms of stamina after a while. So I'm looking to see how good the stamina is for the team. But the first half is what I'm really looking forward to. I think that one probably going to be, 2-1 loss, probably-ish. I think that sounds about right. It depends how strong their squad is. Might be a 1-1 draw. But yeah, the result doesn't really matter too much against Chelsea. Against MK Dons, I'm hoping he just puts out a strong squad and we probably win that one 3-1, maybe. But I expect MK Dons to score because they're a very highly rated side in League One for just the way they play, keep the ball down, very aggressive, very high energy, and it might be an interesting battle of two very similar styles to go up against each other. And I expect our quality to make sure that it edges out in the end. But depends how strong he plays the team. It depends what players we've got in. In the meantime, we may end up seeing, might not actually get a left back in by that point. It might be Jordan Zamora playing. Might be Solanke rested for the first game. Pearson might not be fit. So, yeah, I'd hope we'd win against MK Dons. I'd like us to do something in the cups again this season, like we did last year. But yeah, we'll see. Should be good fun.
And just finally, unfortunately, I'm not going to be at either game until West Brom, but I was lucky enough to go to 3 games last year, and I'm really glad that a lot of the fans that didn't go last season are able to go to both games. But unfortunately, I have got other commitments. I know it's wrong. I shouldn't have other commitments outside of Bournemouth. But yeah, if it was a league game, I would drop everything at a hat. But unfortunately, I can't go to both. Brilliant. That's it then. That's our predictor for the tier list for the championship. And maybe we'll look back on this in however many months it is, and we'll see if we got it right or wrong, because we might know it all or we might know nothing. But Aaron, thank you for joining me on this. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me. Really enjoyed it.
John, excellent as always. Thank you very much.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks for having me on.
And the same to Dan as well. Check out Duron.
Thank you very much. And yeah, looking forward to the season.
Right, Tuesday night then, if you go into the game, enjoy it. If not, if you're able to watch it, fantastic. And the season is coming ever so close. And we're going to be playing West Brom on a Friday night, the first championship game. And we'll find out how Park will get on and the new team. But from here, from me, Aaron, John and Dan, we'll see you on the next video. Up the cherries.